When I look at our history, I realize that our history is not negotiable. It's not defined by slavery. It is a profound history, and we need to teach it in honesty. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Erudition Network. Welcome to the Erudition Network's Black History Interactive and Knowledge Session. This is what we do every Thursday, where we get on, we talk about Black history, and we give a look into Black history that is not always seen, and talk about things that have not always been covered in a way that we can all benefit from and learn together. This program I'm usually on every Thursday. I'm Eddie Phillips. I am the founder of the Erudition Network, which is dedicated to providing knowledge and understanding. And so I am very happy for all of you all who will be joining us tonight. This is an interactive program, so please feel free to jump into the chat and let us know that you're here. Ask questions, opine, tell us what you think as we go through our subjects or the topics that we will cover tonight. Additionally, I would ask that if you are on Facebook and leaving messages, we have found that Facebook is not showing us all of the messages through our streaming app. So if you would be so kind to drop over by YouTube, search the Erudition Network, you will see our symbol and you will see probably my face as I'm talking live, and click that, and you will have a live chat that you can type into, ask your questions, provide your information, and let us know what you're thinking about as we go through this program. I'm gonna give a few moments for people to try to catch up in here. We're in a little different than our usual time, so I'm gonna give people a little bit of time to get in here and join us, if that's going to happen tonight. If not, that's fine. We'll see how many people join in on the live. But if you're watching this, even as a replay, please feel free to drop your thoughts, questions, and anything into our remark section on YouTube. And I definitely will answer whatever questions, thoughts, or concerns that you have about the broadcast, as I do every time someone makes a remark or says something about the program and on social media. I'm gonna give it about a moment. It's just about a minute or so to see if we get anyone else to come in, any more people to join us. If not, we're not gonna wait too long. One of the things I'm trying not to do is take too long to start the session as we get things started, because I want us all to get as much as we can from the information. So give it just a moment, and we're gonna do that. I hope everybody has had a good week as we make our way towards the weekend. Weather's going to start getting better, so everybody should have a chance to do what they want to do, man. Get out there, have fun with your family, and enjoy life. Enjoy life. All right. I think we got about everybody that we're going to get, and that's fine. Tonight, I'm going to cover a couple of things tonight. And I'm going to try to do it in a way where we can kind of stay on a as much on topic as we can. Let me put it that way. As much on topic as we can. One of the things that I want to talk about tonight is our history as it pertains to protest. Before I got on, my family were talking about the idea of this huge 1 million person protest that they want to do coming here in April. And I am not going to tell you to protest or not to protest, but I am going to offer you some things to consider tonight. There are a lot of issues that are going on in our country. But Black people, in the nature of protest in this country, we have always been a forerunner of it. But the issue is that I'm hearing from a lot of people with it is the idea of martial law, the idea of our government pushing us to take protest to a point where they can use it to inflict violence. And so some of the history I want to talk about tonight has to deal with that. It has to deal with that. Rather, we're talking about early protests in this country. There is a history here. There is a history of Black people actually worldwide, and how protest and riot somehow get intermixed. When you look at something like, say, the Haitian Revolution, right, from the late 1700s to the early 1800s, people like to paint Blacks as violent. Oh, the Haitian Revolution, they killed men, women, and children. But we leave out the fact that it was a successful anti-colonial insurrection that didn't immediately start violent, but became violent. Because trying to shake off oppression is hard. And the abolition of slavery during that time in 1791 was extremely difficult. When you're talking about France, a nation who was one of the strongest militaries in the world. And so even though there was a lot of violence that later happened, both towards the people who were fighting and from those who were fighting towards those who were oppressing them equally, it went from a protest, protestation, is that a word? From a protest to actually hands-on violence. And something that concerns me as we talk about this is this fixation on violence. We're fixated on it. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Because we think that because Black people protest, automatically we're supposed to be violent. And there is nearly no rationale that because the violence that typically happens because someone else initiates it. But we also have to look at, I'm going to play the other side of this too. We also have to look at the fact of how effective real protest and movement is. Somewhere in all of our history, even the history of the civil rights movement, we have forgotten our ability, right, to be efficient in protests. Nothing that has ever happened for Blacks in the United States, then by definition, then benefiting others, ever happened without protest, without us saying no. The idea, as many of you have heard, and some of you are advocating, of sitting down and allowing the country to basically eat itself is not really a good idea. And it doesn't go along with the history of our ancestors. It doesn't. Rather, we're talking about that Haitian revolution. Rather, we're talking about any of these things that happened that led to their violence. People said no, and then someone said, well, we're going to inflict violence. And we got smarter. We got smarter. We learned. When the Harlem riots happened in twice, one in 1935 and one in 1943, it was due to people feeling left out. Here's the thing, though. Those protests put a spotlight on Black life in America during the Great Migration and coming towards the Great Depression and after the Great Depression. Though we lost things due to racism, Black codes, redlining, we also gained some things that taught a whole nother generation that came up after those people of the 30s and 40s to grow us and to grow and push for more rights. These were the parents and inspirations of Dr. King and all of those who came during the Civil Rights Movement. Those people were inspired by the things that they saw in the 30s and the 40s, with the Garveyism, right? With the idea of we don't have to take this. And we got smarter about it so that it didn't have to turn into a riot. And so the idea became, is there a way for us to do this non-violently? The idea of nonviolence with Dr. King was a tactic. But what we do now is we've fallen when we watch these protests. The reason why people are saying stay home is we don't advocate proper civil disobedience. We show up to the protests to be seen screaming and hollering, throwing things, fighting the people that gives them the excuse to do something violent towards you. Now, I'm not advocating that you should be beaten and hurt. But there's a difference between breaking a law if you're protesting on, say, a site and people tell you to move. There's a difference between that and picking up a chair or a homemade bomb and throwing it into a building or breaking glass or doing any of these things that are going to incite a riot. There's a difference between having agent provocateurs who come in dressed in all black, act as if they're a part of your movement, and cause violence. There's a difference. What we need to do is learn how to be more efficient and effective again. I did a program where I talked about the steps that Dr. King took or the SCLC took in protest. And then after King's death, we forgot about all of those things. We went back more to, should I say, a militant, angry approach that was advocated to us, right, by people who we should have never listened to. That we should have never listened to. But we did this because we thought that those things that Dr. King was doing, those things that our ancestors were doing, we're not like them. We're not just going to let you beat us. But we don't understand it wasn't about the beating. Did they get beat? Yes. Were people killed? Were folks harmed? Yes. But guess what? Even in an armed conflict, even with what they call a riot, there are still people who died. My son last week during the program, he brought up a situation that happened with Ida B. Wells' friend. And how owning a grocery store and whites being angry that they owned it, and a small fight, People's Grocery, having a small fight in front of that store got black men killed. Got black men killed. Because when they got their guns, the white folks they pulled away. They didn't go so far. But the moment that they disarmed them, they took these men to a railroad track and they lynched them. Murdered them horrendously. I'm not saying that you shouldn't defend yourself. What I'm saying is that you have to be smart. That we have to be smart. If you feel you can't do that, then by all means, don't go out to go protest. Because nobody needs you to get involved and do something stupid that's going to get others hurt. But at the same time, we got to know better how we go about movement. Dr. King said that nonviolence is not something that is for the faint of heart. It's hard to protest and to maintain your decorum when other people try to incite you to violence. That means the police standing out there with their shields. That means folks calling the National Guard. But when you don't interact with that, when you state your purpose and you maintain an emotional, mental, and spiritual understanding of where you are in that moment, you can be effective. It doesn't mean you let people beat you. What it means is that if they go so far as to attack you, it is seen them as the aggressor, not you. We've lost that. Every rally that I see now, we're following this mentality of violence. It looks like the old 1930s, 1920s, late 1800s union busting battles. That's not the way we protest. That has never been the way that people of color have protested in this country. We are effective. We're wise. We know that we cannot meet you in a war where you have the military, the police, and everything else. So we have to be mentally, spiritually, emotionally ready to challenge you on all levels. But we're forgetting that. We're forgetting that. I see y'all got some comments here. The common factor in MLK and Uncle Fred shows our birth was the faith in God and being God-led. People too often behave as man-led, unstable grassroots. So modern narratives often twisted. It's like when good leaders pass away, people who were waiting in the queue take the opportunity to erase the progress and those great leaders like MLK, etc. But we dare not forget. That is true. The other part of that is we try to besmirch these folks. We try to tell people that they weren't all that they were weak. We emphasize the strong man. And that is a human psychological dynamic where we emphasize the strong man and forget that the strong man didn't work. It didn't work. Every uprising in this country led by violent actions, from whether you look at John Brown, where you look at Demar Vesey, whether you look at Nat Turner, it was ineffectual. Because when we turn to the violence that they are or that they're working in, we're meeting them where they want to be met. We're meeting them where they want to be met. And that's never going to work for any of us. The reason that the civil rights movement was so effective, the reason that Dr. King's approach was so effective was because he understood that. One of his principles states that nonviolence or protest seeks to defeat injustice, but not the people. We're here because what you're proclaiming is wrong. We're here because what you're doing is wrong. We're hoping that as a human being, more of you will see it as wrong than those who see it as just the regular state of the day. Because anybody who participates in injustice is still a victim too. They're a victim of their own mind, of their own discernment. They're a victim of not understanding that what they're doing is not going to benefit them either. We see that with policies that are going on in this country right now. Civil disobedience, protest is powerful, and it takes direct action. It takes direct action. We can't go into something like, say, Baltimore, what happened with the Baltimore protests, where it started off with the Freddie Gray situation peacefully. And then it went into a violent eruption as people's frustrations boiled over, as people wanted to be seen and seen as the aggressor. And we had Antifa and all these people who were throwing bombs. And we had folks who weren't even part of the protest, agent provocateurs, who were going in and lighting fires and doing things to start the violence. It is the reason why back in the civil rights movement, there was a meeting before you ever went out to protest. Protest was a step. It wasn't the first step. We got together. We knew what everybody was wearing. People showed up. Go watch that old footage. They showed up in their Sunday's best. Everybody, they could have had overalls on, but they had a church jacket on. We need to know you're with us. Not somebody just showing up to stir up trouble. And the problem with that. So this is why I'm torn with some of you, because I get it. Yeah, stay home. If you're going to be one of those people who's only going to go throw a Molotov cocktail, if you're going to be the one who jumps in the cop's face and spits at him, who probably is just doing his job, and you may be surprised, may even agree with you. But because we no longer listen to our elders, listen to the ancestors, study our history and our power and what was effective, we fall into this ideal that has nothing to do with us. So when we say protest now, everybody sees it as riot. And it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're in Ferguson. It doesn't matter if you're in Baltimore. It doesn't matter if you're in Crown Heights. It doesn't matter where you are. We're going to see it as violence. And it advocates for people to use the police, the National Guard. That has never been beneficial for people of color to be violent. Before Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis, they had a protest march. And parts of that protest march turned violent. Stokely Carmichael and others who were there advocated this idea of Black power. And there was a violent underswing, and people started to attack the authorities. A black man got killed, shot by police, and murdered. Cold blood. Others were hurt because they used it as an excuse to inflict violence. And the agent provocateurs who were there, go back and look at the civil rights movement, COINTELPRO, people who were hired to be there to stir up trouble, to cause this violence. And the thing that we have to remember is that is preventable when you know what you stand for and who you're with. People want to go out and protest. I'm with you 100%. But the moment where someone starts throwing hands, someone starts getting ignorant, it creates the problem of what we're trying to go to. And we can't seem to get around that. People's mental health is not permitting. The gaslighting of life and liberty is not for all Americans. The protest is just that, the pushback. The protest should always be the step where you let them know, listen, we don't agree with what you're doing. This is what we would like for you to do. When you say no, then this is what the protest is going to be. It's not just about the marching. That's the other thing that we're getting wrong. It's not just about the marching. It's about the amount of people that you have that share a like mind. And additionally, it's about leverage so that there can be reconciliation. Dr. King said you can't change a person by mocking and humiliating them. You can only make an enemy of that person. We're not here to humiliate you, but we're here to show you that there are more of us than you who think that what you're doing is wrong. And we're willing to stop buying your products. We're willing to show you economically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally that we don't agree with you. We've lost that. We've lost that. And some would argue, I know some of you are saying, but Eddie, you know, they're going to inflict violence. Yes. Because that's the only option that a strong man has. When you take away everything from him, He's going to react violently because he is defensive and he doesn't know what else to do. So he goes out and he attacks. Be smarter than the attacker. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. We are in a position right now where I don't know where we're going. People can show up now at these rallies because of the constitutional carry with weapons, full-on weapons, and shoot protesters. So maybe don't go and participate in the protest in April. Do your own private protests. Get your own groups together. Do it in different ways. During the civil rights movement, we had multiple different organizations. It wasn't just the SCLC with Dr. King. There was SNCC. There was the Urban League. There were so many groups out here fighting on different levels to try to change the environment. It doesn't have to be one way, but it does have to be strategic. It does have to be smart. But because we're not teaching this generation protest, we're not teaching them history. The Revolutionary War, we teach as if everything was violent, but it wasn't. The Boston Tea Party wasn't violent. The Boston Massacre was violent because of fear and strongman tactics. And when people feel they have nothing else to do but be violent. But you know, when they act that way, that you have them on the ropes. They don't know what else to do. We got to be smarter. We got to be wiser. And we got to start thinking about what we're doing. Start thinking about what we're doing. From what I've seen, the Gen Pop are understanding the importance of the voices of the people who look like the current administration leading the April protest. Representation matters. Here's the thing. A congressman or a senator can get out there and protest with you. But as soon as things go bad, a lot of them are out of there. They're not gonna, they don't have skin in the game. So that part I greatly understand. But what I am saying to you tonight, I'm not telling you to go out and go protest with the millions of people in April. But what I am going to tell you is don't just sit there and do nothing. These people are affecting your life. While many of you are saying that we're resting, we're sitting this out. They're taking Social Security and messing with that. They're taking funds and things that go into schools that provide an educational value for your children, that make sure that they have books that are equated to other schools in richer areas or more affluent areas. They're taking that away from you. They're making a change in how they pull your student loans for you who are trying to be educated. They're affecting every aspect of your life. Even the money that goes to feed the unhoused, special education funds, all of these things are being affected. And if you don't think that the wolf is going to not soon come to your door, you are delusional. W.B. Du Bois talked about the gift of Black folks. I say this so often. He talked about what our ancestors, what we bring to the table in America. that has fed everybody. Civil rights, DEI, affirmative action, all of those things serve more white people than they did people of color. This is the truth. But the other part of that is, if we did not fight for it, if we did not say, you know what, this is important, then America wouldn't be anywhere near the democracy that it tries to be. There have been many people, many presidents, many politicians, many businessmen who have tried over centuries to destroy what America proposes to be. I did not say America is, but what it proposes to be. From the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Fords, the J.P. Morgans. Elon Musk is not new. There have always been rich men willing to try to outright buy America. The only savior throughout American history, and some of y'all gonna get mad and I'm gonna say it, but it's the truth, are Black folks. Think about it. They were your explorers. They were your free labor. They were your soldiers. As a matter of fact, the idea of democracy, as I've said before, comes from the idea of the freeing of the slave. Emancipation meant equal, so was supposed to mean equal footing, fair treatment under the law, regardless of your color, sex, or creed. All of that benefited every American who came after it. We are important to the process. During Reconstruction, it was Black former slaves, freedmen, who ran for office, who went into a state office and federal office to help to make America great again. Built up cities like Atlanta that had been burned, in the Carolinas, in DC. They changed things. These men who just years before were in fields, were pushed down and held down. Our women marched with the suffragists. Our women worked with Black women worked with Black men when Black men were given the vote to elect presidents. Ulysses S. Grant was elected overwhelmingly by newly indoctrinated into the system Blacks who met at churches and sat with their spouses and their families and decided who would be best for them to vote for, when white women couldn't even get that from their own husbands. They couldn't own property. They had no legal recourse in business. In spirituality, Blacks crying out in the field to God is the baseline for our blues, our soul music, our gospel. Don't think that we're not important. Don't think that we have no place in this world. We have a place. We can't just rest. From what I understand, the resting in response to the Black community means no spending or no very limited Black presence anywhere to avoid giving them a reason to cause undue disproportion. Here's the thing. And I said this to my wife earlier. Rather you sit in your home or rather you ride on the street, this country's still going to treat you as a Black person as they have treated you. They're still going to take away our history when they're going to try to. They're still going to remove Black faces. They're still going to do all of these things. It would have been very easy during the civil rights movement to just let it go. Let them do whatever they're going to do. But I guarantee you, had our ancestors, had the people in our families done that, we wouldn't be where we are today. Had the people who, even in their silent protests during the Great Black Migration of leaving the South, had they not done that, many of us would not be here today. You have to fight oppression, but you have to choose how you're going to fight it, how you're going to address it. We are in a battle right now, and it is not an easy battle, and no one ever said it would be. But we have to start mobilizing in a different way. If we don't want to go out and challenge them on the streets, we got to find a different way. We can't just sit here and say to ourselves, I don't care about it. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care about April 5th. Rather you do, rather you don't. What I care about is that you got a strategic plan. That you know what you're going to demand for those who are trying to get you to go out there to go protest. Not to benefit them solely. Because again, I just told you, we keep giving gifts. And I love how Dr. Du Bois stressed it that way. Because that's really what it is. We willingly give you something as a present, our abilities, our talents, and we don't expect nothing back from it. And it's the fact that we don't expect nothing back from it. It's just an offering to you that it gets taken from us and not utilized for us. So I would say, in response to I think what you just said here, Tina, what I would say is that if you're going to do that, it doesn't just have to be financial. It just has to be strategic and wise. The reason that you had food programs and lunch programs that were added to the school system in America was because Black people, the Black Panther Party and other advocates would give free lunch and breakfast to Black kids. And the American government got concerned. Well, they're doing that for them. And our people are seeing that. And they're wondering why they don't get that. And it's indoctrinating people to think like them, or those people. Policies are changed because people are afraid to lose those constituents. They're afraid to lose that power. And what they're doing right now is a way to try to retain some amount of power, because in the next decade or so, their numbers will not be as strong as they are right now. And I'm talking specifically to the racist, bigoted, xenophobic white people. They're afraid of, for the first time in over 1,000 years worldwide, that they will not be the progenitors, the people who start everything and control it. Even though that was always a lie, they can no longer control it. And that issue right there, that issue of control is what we're seeing right now. That's why we have a president of the United States right now who's not going to Congress or the Senate. He's just writing memos and disrupting folks' lives to show his control and his power that he believes that he has. Now, here's the thing about us too. As we talk about this historically tonight, we need to remember what Malcolm said. It is an issue of the ballot or the bullet. And we have to understand that there are people on both sides of the aisle, Democrat, Republican, and whatever you want to call yourself. If you don't have skin in the game, why do you care about the game? I ain't got no risk here. Everything I do, I'm doing for the moral good or to show you I'm an ally. And I'm not saying that there aren't allies. There were Germans who were friends with Jewish people in Nazi Germany. Folks had known their families for decades. But when push came to shove, when the bullets and the glass started breaking, the bullets started flying, they turned those people in to the Germans. Know who you're with. Know who's standing by you. Do they got any stake in the game? Is there anything that they're losing from loss of privilege or whatever they're doing? And if they show you that they're concerned about that, that's not an ally. If they're not willing to go through what you go through, they're not an ally. People now, though, have biracial children, which I always think that is really stupid, because technically every Black African American in this country is probably who's come from slavery. You're biracial. Yet we make that distinction. But what does that do? It makes some, not all, it makes some decide I have something to lose here because my child, my wife, my husband, my niece, my nephew, my family will suffer because of what you're doing, because of the things that you're putting into place could get them killed or harmed. And I'm not willing to lose them. Those are your allies. They got something to lose. And they're willing to fight beside you because they don't want to lose that. Stop running out here with people who tell you, yeah, I'm with you. And you turn around and they're gone. Because that's dangerous and it's putting you in a situation that it was preventable. During this last election when Kamala Harris, and they were running around, everybody was like, oh, whites for Harris and white men for Harris and white women for Harris and all of this and all that. And I was telling people, I was like, yeah, I don't know about all that. Because here's the thing. You got those folks who will say that they're beside you and they're with you. They've always been there throughout all history. We've seen them. Right? But they do turn. What are you just saying here? You're saying, I respectfully disagree. The whites who bury blacks will die for their mulatto children. I'm pretty sure that that's what I just said. Because let me tell you, I'm very honest about it. I didn't say it was all. Thomas Jefferson had black children too. There are people who have black children who are cutthroatly racist. But what I am saying is that more people who have someone to lose, who care about their families, you won't know that. You cannot judge that just because they're white or there's something. You can't. You have to understand that they have something to lose too. You've seen people in media talk about it. White celebrities who have black male children are talking about, I'm afraid for him to be out because I don't know. All your children are black. You don't even know. And why do I care? You must have missed my instruction on race as something that was created. And I think I just said a moment ago, that's a distinction that people have made. And we have to address it as that distinction because that's the way society sees it in this stratified America that we're in. I don't care if you're black or white or whatever. What I care about is what is your stake in the game to lose. I hear so many people talk about their white privilege. Right? And how I got to use my privilege. No, what you really need to be doing is treating everybody equally and fairly. What you really need to be doing is not seeing me as less than. And I'm going to take another page from Dr. King, what he wrote in his last book. Just because you march with me, just because you're with me, just because you stand next to me, I have seen does not mean that you want me to be equal to you. Privilege is something hard for people to give up. You don't believe that? Watch people who are sitting on an airplane or getting ready to board a plane and get mad if you jump ahead of the group you're supposed to be with. No, that's my right. I got that. Privilege is something hard to give up. So don't lose yourself in the foolery. What if I am a white man with a black woman who will not protest for black people? I've been listening and you are speaking for too many people. Listen. If you're a white man with a black woman, you're listening, but you're not comprehending what I'm saying to you. So I'm going to make this very, very, very clear. What I said was, if you care about the people you love who are being affected by policies, racism, bigotry, and you say nothing, that's your right to do that. But the truth of the matter is, you're showing then that there's no care. You have made a differentiation between what it means something to you. I have a biracial family with whites and black and Latinos and people all throughout my family. But here's the reality. We're family. And it should be that if you mess with my family, regardless of what it is, we're going to fight together. Anything else is foolery. You're preaching foolery. And that's fine for you. And that's what we should be avoiding. Asians are black peoples. I'm going to ask you, Manning from Mayor, to go out, get my book. Go get this book. Okay. Do yourself a favor, go get that book, digitally or hard copy, and read about early Black history and early human history, and understand what you just said right here, what you just typed in here, is again aligning us down a foolish behavior. We are all connected. We all share the same mitochondrial Eve. We can all trace ourselves back. We can all trace ourselves back. We're finding more and more and more how much we are related to each other. We're looking at fetal microtribalism, and we're seeing that through that, how parts of our DNA are left in each other. So what you're saying here doesn't really make any sense to me. And I've made it very clear to you several times on here. And you will find that we are related. But there's a choice that was made a long time ago to disown certain parts of us from the family and to see ourselves as the privileged part of the family. But genetics, DNA, things don't lie. Those God-sent things don't lie. And we're reverting back to a time where all of those things are returning back to the way that they were. That's why the idea of white people, as we claim it for the better part of 1,000 years, that idea is going away. This idea of biracial, as I said earlier, what we tend to call biracial when everyone is biracial. There's really only one race. And I've done shows to talk about this idea. The idea that you think that Chinese and Asians are competing against white people. There is a design going on right now to acquire particular cultures and to side them with the other culture because they know that the numbers are reducing. That's why when you look at your job applications now, you're seeing people say, are you Black Latino? Are you white Latino? They're asking you to differentiate between what you are as a Latin person, as an Asian person, as a Black person, so that they can see where you align yourself, where you identify yourself. So you are a sub number to our category. And it's the dumbest thing in the world. I'm not preaching to 5 people. What I'm trying to tell you is that I think, and I don't have a problem with you disagreeing, right? What I'm saying is, if you are my family member, then you should not want harm to come to me. And you're arguing that if I'm a person with children and I don't want to get involved, then that doesn't matter. Then I would ask you to go and read Dr. King's Letter from a Birmingham Jail, in which he start talking about how people who say, well, I'm not for racism, but that's not my issue. Preachers, family members. So you can go along down this line of thought. And I just said to you, that's foolery. Oh, I don't think that you've read the book at all. Because if you'd read that book, then you probably would know that a lot of things that you're saying don't really make any sense factually. But that's the choice, right? That's the choice. We all have a choice to make. You've made yours. No. I'm not going to give you a link to come on anything. This is not the way that this show is working. But I will listen to any opine that you have right here. And so you can gracefully do all of that. So I think that when people, and Tina May makes a great point, it's not an attack. It's not an attack. These are very difficult issues. No. I'm still trying to understand what your opinion is. I'm still trying to understand why you think that it's okay to not help those that you are related to or care about. And I don't understand your take on the model minorities. Who are the model minorities? Are Asians attacked by whites? Absolutely. Just a few years ago, probably about 2 years ago, during the whole pandemic, they were being attacked in the street. Hit, knocked down. And you know the first people that they cried for? Black people. Black people. No. Though I do agree with you that there is some unjust blame on black men, don't put yourself as an antagonist against Asians or Latinos or someone else of different culture because you feel that there are model minorities, right? It makes no sense. It doesn't matter how many Asians that I know. You would be surprised. It doesn't matter. Your thought process is wrong. And I've demonstrated to you a couple of times here why it's wrong. Why you're saying I'm not listening to you, I'm listening to you because I believe in spirited debate. There is no such thing as a model minority, but I will tell you that there is a such thing as a crab in a barrel mentality. And that seems to be some of the things that you're preaching here. Bye to you two. I appreciate you stopping by for whatever you were trying to say. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a fun broadcast. As my wife said, these are difficult subjects. A lot of people get in their feelings and don't realize that what they're saying, it's not logical. There is no such thing to me as a model minority. I've even told people recently, I don't even use that name minority anymore because I'm not minor to anything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great broadcast. I'm about 3 minutes over my hour. I hope that you got something from it. Like, dislike, disagree. We're here, and I think I gave you enough history to validate to you why it is important that you consider what real protest is and look through our history of it and understand it. No, my wife is in here trying to tell me to post some comment here as if I'm not showing you all's comment. Okay. Let's just go with the understanding that life and liberty is applicable to all Americans despite diversity. This is not an attack. Listen, if you think that this is an attack podcast, then you came into it wrong. And but I will not let you give false, non-factual history or ideas on here. When you tell me that there are model minorities, when you say that it's okay for someone who has children who are Black or whatever, for you not to stand up and want them to have better. Something is wrong with that. It's not logical. And you should expect a pushback from that. And I don't care who you are. It doesn't make any sense. We have to have engagement, but we also have to have those principles. Because remember what I told you at the beginning of all of this, that if we're not committed emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, we're going to fail. Before you gird yourself with a gun, armor, whatever, if you're not ready emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, you're going to fail. You are not ready for the challenges that are coming. Get yourself right. That means study if need be. That means pray if need be. But what we're not going to do is allow you to just say anything, because that doesn't make any sense, and spout it as truth. All right. As I said, it's been a good show. I'm advocate of movement, not necessarily protest. It has to be done smart, and it has to be done strategically. If you can do that, you will benefit from it. And I think we've had enough of our ancestors, even in recent times, who have taught us that. People who have given their lives to teach us the right way to do it. It's up to us to continue if we decide to do that. All right, I'm going to get out of here. You all have a great, blessed rest of your evening, and hopefully a wonderful weekend until we see you again. You be blessed, and I look forward to seeing you and teaching again. Have a good one.